Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. Yesterday was emergency part 1. Today is emergency part 2. Victor Osimhen has actually said, listen, I wasn't joking. I'm going nowhere else. I'm only waiting for Arsenal. That is absolutely crazy. How times have changed, man. How times have changed. Yesterday people were like, maybe they're using Arsenal as a smoke screen. Maybe they're just using Arsenal as a name. And then, maybe he wants to go to a Real Madrid or to a PSG. This guy said, no. I actually want to join Arsenal. And without wasting any time at all, let's get straight into that news. I also want to, there's a couple of questions I have for you guys because now this is getting very interesting. Victor Osimhen, this is coming from a very reliable outlet in Italy, that is Gazzetta dello Sport. I think that's what it's called. Victor Osimhen is waiting for Arsenal to make a move for him. Victor Osimhen is waiting for Arsenal to make a move for him. He said, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm waiting for Arsenal. I always picture it. I always wonder, what does it mean when a player is not going to go anywhere else and is just waiting for a particular team? Gvardiol is waiting for Man City. Declan Rice is waiting for Arsenal. I always picture them like, are they just sitting somewhere like, no, I'm not playing any football. I'm only going to play for Arsenal. That's crazy. The thought of that is actually crazy. Osimhen wanting Arsenal. 2 years ago, the thought of that would have been absolutely crazy. There's no way Osimhen would have wanted to play for Arsenal ahead of a Chelsea, ahead of a Man United, ahead of a Real Madrid, ahead of a PSG. Now, Real Madrid possibly don't want him, but from the teams that want him, the likes of PSG and Chelsea were interested in him. I'm pretty sure a team like Liverpool would want someone like an Osimhen. For him to say that he's waiting for Arsenal, that is crazy. Now, there's a couple of things. Osimhen, you've already decided that you've already made, the facts. Osimhen is a very good striker. Many of us, probably all of us, would take him at Arsenal today. Very, very sure of that, like no doubt about that. But there's two things that we are going to have to sacrifice in order to get Victor Osimhen to Arsenal. There's two crucial things we have to sacrifice to get him to Arsenal. Number one is the budget. Now, we don't know exactly what the budget is. We don't know if it's 140 million or 150 or 200. We've not yet gathered that information yet accurately. Let's say our budget was 150 or 60 million. Maybe Arteta and Edu's plan was to get, let's get a striker worth around 50, 55 million. And then let's go and get, I don't know, a midfielder who's worth, 30, 35 million if Partey stays. We've just spent 85 million, 90 million there on a midfield and a striker. Then we can afford to get a winger, backup winger for Saka around 30 million. And then we can get our left back or, a centre back who can play as a left back, a younger one we can actually buy and pay in installments or, send them back on loan, whichever way they're going to do it. And then maybe pay 25 million up front or something. And then the 10 million we have balance, let's get a backup goalkeeper if Ramsdale leaves. So that 150 million and 60 million could have been able to buy 5 players, all put the positions that we need: the backup goalkeeper, a left-sided defender, a midfielder, a winger, and a striker. Most of those positions have had many of you wanting to play in those positions. Now, maybe they didn't know Osimhen was going to be available. Maybe they didn't know Osimhen was going to be available for Arsenal. Maybe they didn't know Arsenal was going to be the team that Osimhen chooses. But now that could change. Maybe that could change. We'll talk about that one as well. But that means you need to change your whole budget. You have to change the whole structure of the budget and say, you know what? From the 150 million, instead of buying 5 players, we are going to now buy 2 players because Osimhen is going to cost you around 110 million. You have to sacrifice your budget to get Osimhen to the team. You'll have to sacrifice it. You cannot get Osimhen and still get Bruno Guimaraes. That is not possible. So you'll have to sacrifice your budget to get Osimhen. Now, would that be something that you'll be able or willing to do? Don't buy a forward, just buy a forward player. And then the balance of like 30 million, 35 million, use it to, sort out one more position, maybe a backup winger, a backup midfielder, or a backup defender, and then potentially ignore all the other positions. So let's, for example, say you get a backup midfielder for Partey and Jorginho, and then Osimhen, and then you forget about getting a backup for Saka, forget about getting a backup or replacement, or whatever it's going to be for Zinchenko on the left side, and then try and convince Aaron Ramsdale to stay at Arsenal. If you can't convince Ramsdale to stay at Arsenal, and maybe you can't convince Partey to stay at Arsenal, you might need to, get back, players on loan. Maybe convince the players who are there to stay. Players like Karl Hein, convince him to stay as a backup goalkeeper, stuff like that. So, would you guys be willing to do that? Would you like to see Arteta doing that in terms of forgetting all the other positions and going for Osimhen and forgetting all the other positions? That is something we could do. because maybe they did not anticipate the Victor Osimhen saying that he wants to join Arsenal. That is something maybe they did not anticipate, but now he's made himself available for Arsenal. Players like that do not become available that easily. Players like that are not usually available just like that. And a player that is always wanted by a lot of different teams, a player that is going to guarantee you 20 plus goals and all that, those kind of players do not become available that easily. And that's a player you can rely on, basically. So let me know, would you want to change your budget? That is number one. That is the first sacrifice you'll need to make. The second sacrifice you'll need to make is the playing style. Now, the way we play our football, we usually, everyone is involved in the game. Everyone is involved in the game. We will have, Martinelli sometimes drifting to the middle, Havertz moving from the forward position to the central position as a center midfielder, Odegaard sometimes drifting to the right side, Saka sometimes drifting to, the middle side of the pitch, and then Odegaard goes to the right side, and then Saka is basically like in the middle of Havertz and Odegaard, and then Benoit goes forward. So our team like always rotates. Like there's sometimes I watch this team and people are just moving around. Like it even confuses me. It's so tough to know who's who. On top of that, I think every coach is involved. The set piece coach, the coach himself, the assistant coach, and they want everyone involved in the game. Literally everyone is involved in the game. Now, if you get Victor Osimhen, that means you're changing your playing style, because Osimhen is not going to come back to midfield and then, rotate with Havertz and then change the playing style and then move to the right side and then allow the player on the right side to move to the middle. Osimhen is potentially not going to do that. He's just going to stay in the box and wait to score the chances. Any rebounds, runs in behind, headers, all that. He's just going to stay there and score goals for you. Now, we've always needed a player who is just going to score goals. I always want a player who's going to score goals. I want a player who's consistent. That's why I'd be happy to take Osimhen. I'd be happy to take Sesko. A player who would want to score 6-7 games in a row. And if they finish a game without scoring, they're not happy. The players that we have, I don't think if Havertz goes, scores a goal and then doesn't score next game, is too bothered. I don't think if Saka scores there, doesn't score the next game, is too bothered. Same with Jesus, same with Odegaard and all those guys. As long as we win the game, they're like, listen, we won the game. That doesn't matter. But a striker would want to score. A striker would want to score 7-8 games in a row. I don't think we have a player who would score 7-8 games in a row. Sesko has done it like the last part of the season, from January to May. You're scoring in almost every single game. I think he scored in 13 goal contributions in 13 games, something crazy like that. So he'd want to score every single goal. Osimhen as well would want to score every single goal. He'd want to take 20 plus goals and all that. So, but we'd have to change our style of play. So would you be willing to, risk those two things, changing the budget and also changing the style of play, just to get an Osimhen bounty signing, like a signing that everyone dreams of? Would you be willing to do those two things? Now, I don't know what Tata would decide. They could potentially just say, nah, I mean, this is not a player that we're really looking at in terms of fitting into the system. We're just going to stick with Sesko, or maybe a different player. I don't know. But they could also look at it like, no, Osimhen does not become available every single time. He's wanting to join Arsenal. This is a chance to get him. Let's go and get him. Let's change a couple of things. I don't know. Maybe let's go and try and get more funds to get more signings after getting Osimhen. I don't know. Because to compete with Man City, we have to keep on spending money and have to keep on improving the team every time we can. Man City move on quickly. They win a league, Sane, gone. The next season, they do something else. FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Aguero is gone. Next season, Sterling, Jesus gone. Zinchenko gone. The next season, Gundogan and Mara is gone. Don't be surprised if they let go of him, Bernardo Silva and Stones this summer, and they move on very quickly. They move on from their players very quickly. So, should we do it or not? Should we go and get Osimhen and getting Jesus, listen, we've now gotten a new striker. Our focus will be getting the goals from Osimhen, because he's a player who can score goals. He can always score. I think he got maybe 17 goals this season. I think that's not a bad number, considering he was injured a few times and he also had to go to AFCON and all that. That's not a bad number. But would you go for Osimhen or go for Sesko? Now, in terms of Sesko news, this is what we've been told by Pletigol. Now, another outlet, this time from Germany, where Sesko plays. Arsenal want to secure the signing of RB Leipzig forward Benjamin Sesko before his 65 million euro release clause runs out at the end of June. So the only way we can get Sesko for that money, that's around 55 million pounds, we have to do it right now. Because after the Euros are started, even even before it has started, a week before, his focus is going to be on playing for his country, and you can't go to him when he's playing for his country and tell him, okay, come and do a medical. That's not possible. And the Euros could extend all the way to, you know, up to the end of his release clause. So you're not going to get him. You're not going to get any time to sign him. I'm assuming if we are really I usually assume that Arsenal, Arteta and Edu are usually doing the discussions with these players very early on. Terms agreed, you've already been told that the terms are agreed and all that. So that one was done early. So maybe in terms of budget and agreeing with Leipzig, that could be done on the side. But it all depends on whether the player said, listen, you guys do the discussions. I'm happy to go to Arsenal. You finish. And then if I'm needed to do a medical, I'm going to do it. And I'm done. But if you wait for after that, Leipzig would purposely wanted to get to the end of June so that they get 80 million for him. So them, they're not in a rush. Them, they'd want to push it up until the end of June, maybe wait for any other offers. Maybe a Tottenham comes in, maybe an AC Milan comes in, maybe a Bayern Munich comes in and say they want him. Them, they're happy to wait for any other team that wants him so that they can get more money. That is what they would want. That is exactly what they would want. So which one should you go between this? You get Sesko for 55 million. You still get a striker who can score goals. You get a younger striker. You still get a striker who knows where the goal is and a striker who's going to fit the system. And you still have more budget to spend. Someone to help out Saka. Someone to play on the left side of our defense. A lot of people want that. Someone to help out Partey midfield. We still don't know if Partey definitely is going to stay. So what's going to be the situation? And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Now, maybe they've changed their mind. Maybe they've changed their mind because we're starting to hear a couple of players that are maybe going to stay. We're starting to hear a bit of stories here and there. So maybe we are trying to get maybe other options in midfield. But now since they've been told that OSIMHEN wants to join Arsenal, maybe they're like, okay, now we need to convince a couple of players to stay. Maybe we need to ask Zinchenko to stay. Maybe we need to ask Vieira to stay. Maybe we need to ask, you know, Partey to stay. And then focus on getting a striker and maybe a backup for Saka. Maybe we are going to get a backup for Saka, but since our budget is going to be spent on OSIMHEN, maybe they've told Fabio Vieira, listen, you need to stay because we are going to use you on the right side next to Saka, because this is the news that has also come out today. Fabio Vieira is expected to stay at Arsenal this summer. Fabio Vieira is not one of the players Arsenal are happy to sell for the right price this summer. Mikel Arteta views him as an important member of the squad and rates him highly. So it looks like Vieira is not going to go anywhere. I'm personally not a fan of Vieira playing on the right side. What Saka gives in terms of pace and, you know, drifting past fullbacks, I don't think Vieira can really do that. I prefer Vieira as a number 10 or sometimes the number 8, you know, if you need two attacking number 10s. For Fabio Vieira playing on the right side, I think it takes a bit, it's a bit too slow in terms of getting the cross in and all that. He needs to cut into his left foot. He's a bit slower than Saka. Saka can go to the right side and hit the cross with his right side or shoot with his right side. So I'm sorry, Fabio Vieira cannot really do that, so I prefer him in the middle positions. Last season, I predicted Fabio Vieira to be the surprise of the season, but obviously he was injured for almost half of it and didn't really do it. So, I mean, there's games that he played at the beginning of the season, he was looking good against Fulham, against a few other teams. I think Everton, he looked good as well. Against Man United, he got the assist for Jesus, so he was looking good, but he got a red card and then he got injured and then all that went to waste. And after he came back in the game against FC Porto away from home, we thought, okay, he's now going to be playing. We've waited for him a long time, but he only made a couple of appearances off the bench and that was it. Never really even started a game. So it looks like Arteta wants to keep him next season, to use him. We signed him for 40 million. So surely they saw something in him. But if you're given a third season, especially if he gets to like January and you still haven't seen much from him, I'd not be surprised if he got sold in January or gets loaned out like Lokonga did a couple of seasons ago. But if he starts the season next season well and he's playing well and he's scoring goals like he did against Brentford 2 years ago, then we're in a very good spot, because at that point, then you can maybe a couple of games, maybe you can take off Odegaard early and bring on Vieira. But we've also had talk that Arteta is not impressed with Vieira in training sometimes in terms of energy. And that Odegaard role, our best presser in the team, you cannot have a player who's not going to press, a player who's going to be lazy. You can't really afford that. But from what the reports are saying, Arteta is not really looking to sell him. So let's wait and see what happens with that. So what does that mean for someone like a Smith Rowe? If Fabio Vieira is staying, I'm assuming he's going to play where Odegaard is most of the times. Where is Smith Rowe going to play? Now, we've done a video earlier today. Cozy talking about Smith Rowe. Does he have a future at Arsenal? Should he stay? Should he be leaving? I'll put it on screen right now. Make sure to check it out. very interesting transfer window coming up, man. A very interesting transfer window. Let me know what you make of that. Everything we've talked about. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.